Good evening, pal. Welcome to Bloody Pumpkin. Before we begin, I want you to do something. Put on your headphones, turn off the lights, sit back, relax, and close your eyes. Don't just hear the story, imagine it. The highway stretched endlessly under the cold glow of the moon. Jack, a seasoned trucker with over 20 years on the road, had seen every kind of roadside diner and truck stop America had to offer, but tonight felt different. The road was quieter than usual, almost unnaturally so. Even the usual hum of distant trucks was absent. Jack's rig rumbled along the asphalt, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching him from the shadows that clung to the roadside. He was tired, more tired than usual, and a sudden urge to rest led him to scan the horizon for the familiar neon glow of a truck stop. That's when he saw it. A glowing sign, blinking, Haven Truck Stop, next 5 miles. Relief washed over him, and without a second thought, he veered off the highway toward it. The truck stop appeared almost magically, as if it had materialized out of nowhere. Its fluorescent lights hummed faintly, illuminating rows of empty parking spaces and an unusually clean facade. Jack parked his rig and stepped out, the chill night air biting at his skin. He noticed a lone figure behind the counter, a man who seemed older than time itself, with sunken eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. "Evening, traveler," the man said in a voice that rasped like dry leaves. Jack returned a polite nod and walked toward the diner, hoping for coffee and a warm meal. But as he approached, he realized the diner was eerily silent. No clatter of dishes, no distant laughter, no radio playing a soft country tune, only the faint, unnatural glow of the neon lights above. Jack stepped inside, the bell over the door chiming in a way that sounded almost too loud for the emptiness around him. The interior was immaculate, every chair and table perfectly aligned. But the chairs were empty, and the usual aroma of fried food and coffee was replaced by a faint metallic tang, like blood long dried. As he sat at a booth near the window, he noticed something peculiar. A series of photographs on the wall, each showing a truck stop that looked exactly like this one. Some were dated decades ago, but Jack could swear he had never seen them before. The man behind the counter approached with a steaming cup of coffee. "You won't find your way back once you leave," he said cryptically. Jack laughed nervously, assuming it was a joke, but the unease in the man's tone made his stomach knot. Jack decided to step outside for some fresh air, trying to shake off the creeping sense of dread. As he turned the corner, he froze. His rig, which he had parked just moments ago, was gone. In its place was an empty stretch of asphalt leading nowhere. Panic surged through him. He ran back to the diner, but the door was gone. In its place was a blank wall, smooth and unyielding. The neon sign above flickered violently before going dark, plunging the truck stop into an unnatural, suffocating darkness. Jack stumbled backward, heart pounding, and realized that the road outside seemed endless, stretching into a void with no recognizable landmarks. The world he knew, the highway, the familiar road, the open sky, had vanished. Then he heard it, a low humming chant echoing from nowhere. The air grew thick, pressing against his chest like a physical weight. Figures began to emerge from the shadows, indistinct at first, but gradually taking shape. Ghostly silhouettes of long-forgotten travelers, some with hollow eyes, some frozen mid-step as if trapped in time, surrounded him. Jack tried to scream, but no sound came out. One of the figures, a young woman with a wide, unnatural grin, floated closer. "You should not have stopped here," she whispered, her voice reverberating in his mind rather than his ears. Jack felt his limbs grow heavy, as though the asphalt itself had turned to quicksand beneath him. The highway, the truck, the world outside, all of it was a distant memory. Jack struggled, panic clawing at his throat as the figures closed in. Suddenly, he noticed a truck parked at the far end of the void, glowing faintly, engine humming. It was his rig, or a perfect replica. Desperation pushed him forward. He ran, ignoring the cold, ignoring the pull of the shadows, and dove into the truck's cab. The engine roared to life as if waiting for him all along. But the moment he tried to reverse, the highway ahead stretched endlessly, twisting and contorting like a serpent. The truck refused to move backward, trapped in a loop. Jack realized with a sinking heart that the truck stop wasn't a place, it was a trap, and he was now part of its collection. Hours, or maybe days passed, time lost meaning in the void. Jack's eyes grew accustomed to the dim glow, and he saw others trapped like him, wandering in circles, whispering warnings that no one could hear. He glanced at the wall of photographs again, recognizing one image instantly, himself, stepping into the diner for the first time. The horror sank in. He was already part of the story, and anyone who stopped at Haven Truck Stop would join the endless parade of the lost. Outside, the highway remained quiet, untouched, waiting for the next traveler seeking refuge. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the neon sign flickered back to life, blinking, Haven Truck Stop, next 5 miles. The highway was silent, stretched endlessly through the flatlands under a blanket of mist. Sam had been driving for hours, hauling a load of electronics from Chicago to Denver, and fatigue weighed heavily on him. The rhythmic hum of the tires on asphalt was his only companion, until a faint glow appeared in the distance. A truck stop. Its neon sign flickered, almost calling to him, reading, Red Maple Truck Stop, next exit. He eased his rig off the highway, relieved at the thought of a hot meal and a shower. Something about the place felt off, too quiet, too perfect, but he brushed it aside, convincing himself that a long night on the road made him paranoid. Sam pulled into the parking lot, which was unnaturally empty. Not a single truck, not a single car, though the lights of the diner inside glowed warmly. He parked, shut off the engine, and stepped out, expecting the familiar smell of coffee and fried food. Instead, the air was stale, carrying a faint metallic odor. The diner's glass doors reflected his tired, lined face back at him, but he noticed something strange. His reflection seemed delayed, moving a fraction of a second after his real movements. A chill crawled up his spine. Behind the counter, a middle-aged man looked up, expressionless. "Evening traveler? Hungry?" he asked. The voice was warm, almost comforting, but it carried an undertone Sam couldn't place. Inside, the diner was immaculate. Tables gleamed as if freshly polished, and chairs were perfectly aligned. But no one else was there, not a single patron, not a waitress, only the man behind the counter. Sam sat down, ordering a coffee, hoping the normalcy of routine would ease his growing unease. As he waited, he noticed small details, cracks in the walls that seemed to move, shadows that didn't match the shape of any object, and a ticking clock on the wall that moved backward. He rubbed his eyes, thinking exhaustion had finally gotten the better of him. When the coffee arrived, the cup was scalding hot, yet the steam formed shapes that looked like screening faces. Sam's hand trembled as he set it down. After sipping the coffee, Sam decided to take a walk around the truck stop. The parking lot stretched far beyond what he expected, rows of empty spaces vanishing into the fog. As he walked, he noticed trucks lined up along the edge of the lot, their cabs empty, headlights dimly glowing. Each truck bore familiar license plates, some from states he had never driven through. His own rig, which he had parked just moments ago, was nowhere to be seen. A sinking feeling of dread enveloped him. The fog thickened, muffling sound, making him feel as though he were completely isolated from the world. So suddenly, a figure appeared at the edge of the fog, a woman in a tattered waitress uniform, carrying a tray that seemed impossibly heavy. Her eyes were hollow, yet fixed on him with unblinking intensity. "You should not have come here," she whispered. Sam tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. The air grew colder, each breath forming icy clouds. The fog began to swirl, revealing more figures, all trapped in movements, like ghosts replaying endless routines, washing dishes, sweeping floors, staring into nothingness. Panic surged through him. He turned and ran toward where he thought his truck should be, but the asphalt beneath his feet seemed to ripple like water. Sam stumbled upon his rig, or a perfect replica, parked exactly where he thought he had left it. Relief surged, but it was short-lived. As he climbed inside, he noticed the mirrors reflecting not the truck stop, but dark landscapes, twisted highways, and endless voids. He tried to start the engine, but the key wouldn't turn. The doors were locked from the outside, trapping him inside. Outside, the fog thickened, and the figures began moving toward the cab, their faces contorted with silent screams. One of them pressed against the windshield, and he could see his own reflection merging with theirs. He wasn't merely looking at them anymore, he was becoming part of them. Hours, or maybe moments passed, indistinguishable from each other. Time had no meaning here. Sam tried to scream for help, but the sound dissolved into the fog. When he finally managed to force the door open, he found himself not on the highway, but back at the diner, the neon sign glowing brightly. The parking lot was empty, and everything looked pristine, as if untouched. Desperate, he ran again, but the same thing repeated. No highway, no escape, only the endless loop of the truck stop. The realization hit him like a freight train. He was trapped in a supernatural cycle, caught between the world he knew and this distorted version of it. Weeks, months, maybe years, he could no longer tell, passed. Sam watched other travelers arrive at the red maple truck stop, each drawn by the same flickering sign. They would enter, drink their coffee, wander the lot, and eventually vanish into the fog, becoming part of the endless parade of lost souls. And in the quiet moments, when the neon flickered, you could see his own face in the photographs lining the walls, smiling, frozen, trapped. Outside, the highway stretched endlessly, waiting for the next weary traveler, whispering through the wind, "Red Maple truck stop, next exit." The rain-slicked highway glistened under the pale light of the moon as Riley pressed on the accelerator, determined to make it to her next delivery on time. She was a rookie trucker, barely a year on the road, but she had learned to trust her instincts. Tonight, however, every instinct screamed that something was wrong. The air was thick with fog, and the world beyond her headlights seemed to dissolve into darkness. Hours had passed since the last sign of civilization. That's when she saw it, a soft amber glow, flickering through the mist. A truck stop. Its neon sign read, "Silver Pines Truck Stop, Exit 82. Relief and fatigue mingled in her chest as she veered off the highway, unaware that she was driving straight into the unknown. The truck stop emerged from the fog, as if conjured from a dream, the wet asphalt reflecting its neon glow. Riley parked her rig, expecting the usual sounds of life dish clattering, low murmurs of conversation. But the place was silent, too silent. She stepped out, the rain soaking her jacket instantly, and approached the diner. The building looked inviting, but something about it felt off. The doors were spotless, the windows unusually clear. Behind the counter, an elderly man with gray hair and piercing blue eyes stared at her without blinking. "Evening, miss. Care for a meal?" His voice was calm, almost comforting, but the way his eyes lingered on her, scanning her like prey, made her skin crawl. Inside, the diner was immaculate, brighter than any she had ever seen. Every plate, cup, and fork gleamed under the fluorescent lights, but the tables were empty, and the air smelled faintly metallic, like old iron. Riley sat at a booth near the window, trying to steady her nerves. She noticed the wall clocks, all of them ticking backward. A jukebox in the corner played no music, yet the air vibrated with a faint, discordant melody. On the wall, photographs of trucks and truckers lined the surfaces, some black and white, some decades old, but she recognized faces among them, people she had passed on the road over the last year. Her heart raced. Were these real memories, or a sinister illusion? Riley decided to step outside for some fresh air, hoping the rain and cold would snap her mind back to reality. As she reached the parking lot, she realized her rig was gone. Panic surged. She ran back to the diner, but the doors were no longer there. In their place, smooth, featureless walls glistened under the neon light. The fog thickened, swirling around her legs like cold fingers. Shadows began to stretch and twist along the asphalt. Whispers rose from nowhere, echoing words she could not understand, but felt deep in her bones. The soft glow of the neon sign flickered, each flash revealing more ghostly figures emerging from the mist. Drivers, travelers, and truckers lost to time. From the fog emerged a figure, a tall man with hollow eyes and an unnerving grin. He raised a hand, pointing at Riley, and the whispers grew louder, almost forming sentences. "You're ours now. You're ours now." Riley tried to move, but her legs felt like lead. The asphalt beneath her seemed alive, rippling and swallowing her steps. Figures of travelers past floated around her, frozen mid-motion, repeating tasks endlessly, pouring coffee, polishing trucks, staring blankly into space. The air grew thick, every breath she took tasting of dust and iron. Her own reflection appeared in puddles on the ground, but twisted, with hollow eyes and a pale, distorted smile. Desperation pushed Riley forward as she ran toward the far end of the lot, where a dimly glowing truck appeared. Her rig were a perfect replica. Relief surged, but the moment she reached it, the truck dissolved into mist, leaving only a jagged puddle that reflected a distorted, endless highway. The neon sign flickered violently, casting long, eerie shadows that reached out to grab her. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. The shadows coalesced, forming grotesque shapes of travelers and truckers lost before her. One of them whispered in her ear. She realized with horror that the truck stop was a trap, a supernatural pocket outside time, collecting those who stopped to rest, never to leave again. Hours, days, or perhaps years passed. Riley could not tell. Every attempt to leave ended with her back at the diner, the neon sign flickering in the fog. Time lost meaning. Her memories of the outside world began to fade. Other travelers arrived, drawn by the same blinking sign, each unaware of the fate awaiting them. Riley watched helplessly as they stepped inside, vanishing into the fog, joining the endless cycle of lost souls. The diner's photographs updated subtly, revealing her image among the captured travelers. She was already a part of the story, a warning for the next. Outside, the highway stretched endlessly, silent and unchanging. The fog whispered promises of warmth, food, and rest, calling to every weary traveler. And above it all, the neon sign pulsed softly, flickering. Silver Pines Truck Stop, Exit 82. Riley stood among the shadows now, part of the eternal collection, waiting for the next traveler, foolish or tired enough to heed its call. The highway remained patient, waiting, always watching, always hungry.